Okay, so today I'd like to welcome Nicholas to this interview. And Nicholas, if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about your business, what you do, and how long you've been in business for.
Yep. So I've got a few businesses, but one of probably the interesting one is Wet Earth, which is our, we sell dust suppression solutions to mining companies.
Right.
So based here in Albury-Wodonga, where there's no mining at all within hundreds of kilometres, we've been able to build quite a decent sort of business from here. And that started as an online, I came from an IT background and I wanted to find a business where I could sell something so I wasn't getting paid just for the hours I worked. And
Right.
identified irrigation equipment as something that looked to be a market. So I approached a local irrigation store, and about 20 years ago, we started selling irrigation equipment online. One of the, I think the second company in Australia to actually sort of do that and to target that. And so that became quite a good business. But we started to get mining companies contacting us because they're remote, so they frequently don't have people to service them.
Right.
And so we started selling, and we started to, I guess, broaden our range to accommodate their needs. And eventually reached a point where that was becoming significantly larger than the online irrigation business. So we split them off.
Right. Okay. Yep.
And Wet Earth has continued as the sort of the mining business, and we now sort of focus on dust suppression and water disposal, areas which sort of come from the background of that irrigation. So we do chemicals for crusting areas. We do stockpile sprinkler systems, fog cannons, evaporation machines. Yeah, so quite a broad range.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. So, and I'm just thinking, with that type of business, what impact did COVID have on your business in that sense?
It probably, the bigger thing is it probably changed all our competitors to have our business model, which was probably the biggest change. Our business model is, there's two of us who both work from home, and we generally use contractors for supplying equipment and warehousing and things like that. So we don't, we try and support the mining companies that are relatively remote.
Okay.
Like Newcastle, there's 1 million irrigation companies around there, so they get well supported. We really don't get a lot of business in that region. But areas like the Pilbara, Central Queensland, and other remote areas, we do well because there's no one there to support them. So we became very good at communicating remotely through the phone, through sending, through email, and probably some of the Zoom technologies. But we were very good at communicating remotely,
Right. Okay.
And we prided ourselves on that. So when COVID hit, all our competitors suddenly had to start doing the same. So that probably was the biggest change. People who had reps running around the country, going visiting people, suddenly decided, oh, the only way they can continue to do business is copy our business model.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, isn't that interesting? So in terms then of, what's one or two actions that you've taken through the pandemic, and what are the ones that you're going to continue doing differently as an outcome of that?
Our business model, probably not a lot of change for our business model because we're already set up so that we weren't doing a lot of face-to-face with our customers.
Yep.
So we didn't need to really change anything, but we have seen a significant amount of our competitors change, so that the idea of having reps running around the country, while for some industries is still necessary, mining, they don't want extra people walking around their mine sites. And so that whole rep model just died almost overnight with COVID.
Right.
For other people. So I guess it just made sure we have to keep up our game. And I guess just even simple things. When someone sends you an email asking a question, you don't just answer the question, you answer everything you think that they could come back with. You give them as much information at once as you possibly can to sort of, it has, I guess, a twofold effect. It helps them, it stops a lot of email sort of conversation in terms of backwards and forwards, so it doesn't waste everyone's time, but it also gives you credibility with your customers.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's one of the things that I'm certainly seeing come out of COVID is the ability to communicate and communicate really effectively has become paramount.
Yes.
Because when you were able to do the face-to-face things, people would tend to do that more regularly, so they were communicating on a more regular basis. Whereas, with the model that you've adopted, being able to communicate the right information consistently becomes paramount. Yeah,
and also how you come across. Like I came from a corporate background where you'd introduce your emails, you'd just say Phil, and then you'd write your email.
Yeah,
you pointed out it's quite cold, whereas you're trying to create a relationship, particularly when you're dealing remotely with people. So it's always hi
yes.
Phil, as the email. Just simple things like that as trying to create a more warmer, engaging email and a conversational sort of email style rather than too dot pointy.
Yes, yep. No, fantastic. So what's been your biggest learning since you've become a business owner, Nicholas?
To keep your eye out for opportunities, because you never know where it's going to be. Like our business has gone from being an irrigation business, a mining rental company, a chemical supply company. We've just, from year to year, what has been our major business has varied, and just been really flexible and opened opportunities. If someone contacts us with a problem, we try and solve it.
Yes.
Because if they've got a problem that there isn't a clearly defined solution for, then inevitably that's where you can make some money.
Yep. And in terms of identifying those opportunities, then what's the process that you go through with your colleagues? Do you have a formal process to try and identify those new opportunities, or is it something that you deal with it as it arises?
We deal with it as it arises, and I guess that's part of our marketing strategy. Point two, we try and target organisations. I'll take it back a step. Dust suppression isn't something people get excited about in businesses. They only want to do it when it's critical for them. So if I have an ad in a magazine for dust suppression, no one's going to look at it. They're never going to come to our website. But if they've got a problem, they're going to jump into Google and they're going to say dust chemical for whatever stockyards or for whatever tailings dams or whatever. And at that point, I want to come up because they are at the point of wanting to buy. So we're getting people very late in their decision-making process. And I guess that's how we try and take advantage of people at that late stage, that they're ready to buy, they've got a problem, they've got to fix it tomorrow. So it's all about us very rapidly creating solutions, being very responsive and communicating effectively in that very small window we have to get the business.
Yes.
So, but it depends on how your business works. If you're building, like we've got a very good brand out there now, but it has been built off that, being the person who is there at that critical time to do it.
Yeah.
And then you've got the opportunity to build relationships with people on sites and things like that. Yes.
Yeah. Look, it's one of, I've just come off a coaching call myself, and that was the one thing that we spent the focus on today, was building relationships and how important that actually is.
Yeah, probably in mining, it's a little less so than a normal business dealing with mining, because mining, the turnover of people is so high.
Right.
People generally are only in a position 2 or maybe 3 years. And so you've really, that's your opportunity to deal with them, and then they're gone. Particularly
Yes.
in the larger corporates like BHP, Rio Tinto, and all of those people, particularly good people who we tend to try and work with, they get promoted and moved very quickly.
Right. Yep.
And so they'll move, and then you'll get the opportunity at the new place, but you do only have those small windows to create relationships.
Yep.
And
So it's an ongoing of rebuilding all the time.
yeah, it is. Yes.
Yep.
And once you solve a problem, then it's some sites you can have long-term relationships, but frequently it's a relationship about a particular problem that we're solving.
So what would you say the biggest issues are that you've had to overcome in business?
I guess it is that getting business, how to get business, how to attract business, and how to market it efficiently. Like we've done all the things, we've done magazines, expos, all of those sort of things, and we've sort of just come to the conclusion that getting people when they actually need it is the best one. Being in an expo and showing all your stuff, people will sort of have a quick look, but they're not really interested in sprinklers or dust suppression chemicals. They only want to deal with you when they really have to, when someone says, we're going to shut you down, or this is impacting production.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. So, and what's been your biggest learnings in business and in life? What would be your key takeaways?
Finding the balance. And I did that quite early. I was doing a lot of consulting, IT, e-commerce consulting, and doing a lot of traveling, and working as a consultant in companies, which was very intense and long hours and travel and things, which was quite tough on the family. And so I decided to prioritize working from home. So I'm a bit unique. I've been working from home for 20, 25 almost years. And so whenever I started doing with COVID, it's sort of like, well, yeah, I've been doing it, but it's given me a fantastic life balance of seeing my kids grow up and being able to pick them up from school, going to see their kids sport and having that. And so I've been able to have that good balance of not waiting until I'm retired before I've actually get to have that freedom. I've had that freedom as I've worked. So I'd try and say that would be my biggest one, is try and get a good balance in your life, because it's good for your health.
Yeah, absolutely.
And relationships.
Yeah. And, you know, it prevents a whole bunch of different issues regarding, I guess, your mental state, physical health, and, you know, becomes really important. It's having that good work-life balance that where it keeps you sharp, it keeps you focused.
Yeah, and probably, I guess that's probably given me the ability to continue learning. Lifelong learning, I think, is critical. Like,
yes.
Like I've been doing work on artificial intelligence work, and I'm always doing short courses myself, just to, it gives me a knowledge. And probably, I guess, in the area I am, if I want to an underlying principle I sort of saw for businesses, if you're going to outsource something, you've got to have a decent enough knowledge in-house to be able to manage that outsourcing. If you don't have the knowledge and you're outsourcing something, you'll either get ripped off or it'll be an absolute disaster. So try and have enough knowledge in whatever you're doing. If you're getting someone else, you're paying someone else to do it for you. You don't have to do it, but have the knowledge in-house in an organization.
Yeah.
Some way. And that doesn't,
Okay, so second last question. So what does the future look like for you in business, and what do you see the main challenges moving forwards?
My main challenge is my business partner's retiring in 6 months, and that's going to be the biggest challenge, because we've built our business just the two of us without any other employers, because we work with a lot of contractors and a lot of other companies. So anything we need made, we've got people who make it, who's all suppliers. So that's probably going to be my biggest challenge, is how to manage that. And it's been really good because one of us wanted to go overseas or travel or spend time with family, the other one covered. So
Yes.
for me, is going to be working out how to replicate that, or how to give myself so I don't,
So how do you avoid the doubling of your workload?
Yes.
Virtually overnight.
Yeah.
No, that's an interesting challenge.
Hmm.
And last question, Nicholas, is if you were to start the business again, what would you do differently next time?
I wouldn't do anything, because it's business has evolved on opportunities. So it's not as if we set out with a nice strategic plan, and we've tried to do it, but it's never worked well, because it's about taking the opportunities as they come.
Yeah.
And there's solutions that I'm delivering to customers this week. I wouldn't have done for the last 7 years, because everyone's got too much water. They're trying to get rid of water. So we've created specific solutions to fit the particular limitations of today's world. So people can't get equipment. There's massive restrictions on equipment, so they need solutions to supply quickly. So we've created some solutions to get rid of water quickly that we can supply in 3 weeks rather than 3 months. So yes. We've always been about taking advantage of the opportunities. So I would still start the business the same way I did. I picked a good partner. So I have to say I was very lucky with that. I've had some luck. I've had some luck along the way.
Right, yep.
But they're about, no, I don't think I'd change how we've done it.
Excellent. So in terms then, I've just thought of one more question.
Yeah.
What would you say to anyone thinking about going into business today? What would your advice be?
It's the people you work with and the partners are the most critical aspect of it. They can make your job good or hell. They can help you grow. They can hold you back. It's that if you're doing it yourself, you're still going to have to deal with suppliers, and it's about those relationships. It's all about the quality of those relationships and how you manage those. I would say would probably be the key thing for starting, and make sure you have that work-life balance. If you start yourself off killing yourself doing it, you'll always be that way.
Yeah. Look, I think that's excellent advice, Nicholas. And one of the things that I see is good work habits versus bad work habits.
Yep.
And making sure that you're conscious of what those bad work habits are, i.e. working 10, 12 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week. That's not a good work habit to get into. And I have to put my hand up and say I've been guilty of doing that in previous corporate life, and it's not something that's going to do yourself or the business any good.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And there will be times when you have to do it, but you should always be aware that that is something you're doing, and you're doing that for a reason. Like I did that. We had a window of time when I did a lot of programming, and I programmed very, very intently and spent long hours, but I only did that for 2 or 3 years. And that really gave us a basis to launch off. Yeah. So
excellent. All right. Well, thank you for your time today, and thank you for your input. And I look forward to following your future successes. So thank you again for your time.
Okay, pleasure.